Hey Sharath.
Hey, Sai.
Hey. Thanks for doing this session, Sharath.
Yeah,
Please introduce,
thanks for inviting me for this session.
please introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Sharat Kumar. Uh, I have literally 10 years of experience into front-end technologies, predominantly into Angular, and I have worked with different higher domains and clients like telecommunication, which is T-Mobile, and banking, BNYM, etc. So yeah, currently I am going to give a short and sweet presentation about Angular state management and how we are going to manage the state with different concepts like signals, RxJS, and NgRx. So, yeah, that is all. Before moving forward, Sai, do you have any questions?
I think we're good.
Yep, that sounds great. Okay, so this is a kind of presentation that I have prepared for myself. This is completely HTML and JavaScript that I have worked with in creating this particular presentation. So let's move forward to the next. So the overview of this presentation would be like understanding state management and what are the key challenges that we may face with the state management, and what are the traditional methods that we are having right now, and what are the modern state managements that we can try implementing. And yeah, below are these different approaches. We'll go one by one. So firstly, what is state management? So state management is nothing but like handling data or and the changes of the data over time in your application. For example, consider an Amazon application. You might add items into your cart, and that items in your cart should be available even if you are moving from one page to another page. And precisely, when we are talking about Angular, from one component to another component or one module to another module per se. So that is how we need to maintain the state and ensure the consistency and predictability across the components. Right now, Angular is using component structure, so we'll be talking more about components. And also, yeah, we can make use of this with the modular structure as well. So what are the key challenges here? Like sharing the data between components, obvious thing that we might need the state or the data between the components. That's what our goal is. And maintaining the data consistency, handling asynchronous operations. This is where effects come into picture. I hope most of the Angular developers know what an effect is, and how important it is to maintain the data while handling the asynchronous operations, and managing complex data flows, and debugging and testing the state changes. So traditional methods, what we have right now is people or developers mostly use RxJS and NgRx for the state management. For the simple applications and small applications, people tend to use RxJS because it's simpler, and NgRx for complex or even enterprise scale applications. So what we do in the state management is, if suppose there are two components, then there is a shared state which will be immutable all across the application, and it will be shared by component A and component B in the same way. So here, what our approach is gonna be? So let's see what approaches we are going to do. Signals, RxJS, and GRX. Signals use reactive primitive types. It's very low in complex, and best for component level state. I would say even service level, we can maintain the state for simple applications, and it's very easy. It's just like simple JavaScript. RxJS, most of us know what RxJS is. It uses reactive streams, observables, subjects, and it is a little medium complex. It's not so high, not so low. Mostly when we use asynchronous operations and data streams like API calls using different operators with RxJS, map, filter, or even time management like debounce time, etc. And the learning curve is moderate. But coming to our NgRx, it is a completely a different library that we are making use of just to maintain the state in Angular applications. It is very complex, but again, it is very helpful for the large apps and apps where we have to maintain complex state. For example, when we have micro frontends, different micro frontends and different teams working on different micro frontends, and we need to maintain the state, then NgRx would be a good choice. But yeah, with the complexity, the learning curve is steep. So let's dive deep into all these three things like signals, RxJS, and NgRx, and then start comparing which is the best and when to use what. Firstly, Angular signals. Signals are like reactive primitives that notify consumers when their value changes. They provide a new way to handle reactivity in Angular applications with fine-grained change detection. We'll come to this part, change detection, in a minute. First, let us understand when the signals were introduced. It was introduced with Angular 16, and the main motto of bringing signals into the Angular developers wanted to reduce the bundle size of Angular applications, improve the performance, and make it simpler for the developer to maintain state and maintain the change detection. Now, how does it maintain the change detection? Let's first understand what change detection is. Usually in Angular applications, Angular uses zone.js for maintaining the change detection. What it does is, from the root level component, it runs the change detection till the grandchildren's, which where we might not be making changes to each and every input properties of each and every component. But again, we will be making the change detection strategy run for all the components, sorry. We do have some change detection strategies like on push, where only component changes will be tracked. But again, just it is very complex, and using zone.js is also very complex, and uh, it's not very performative. So that is the main reason like signals are introduced. And also the architecture of signals is very simple. There is a signal value, and there will be a change that will be uh, updated into the template or in the even the code, which will be using change detection. And what is this change detection at all if we are not using the zone.js? Okay, let's understand the core components concepts of the signal and then come here. So signal is like kind of a wrapper around a value that notifies consumer when changed. For example, if you can see here in the code, signal is provided by the Angular core. We don't use any other libraries like RxJS and NgRx. It's within the Angular, and signals always need a initial value, and using signals we can maintain or compute the values of the signals and make use of computed method for that. So computed is nothing but derived values that update automatically. So what it means is whenever a signal is changed, the value of signal is changed, it will notify the consumers. How it notifies? That's when computed comes into picture. We'll talk about side effects. Let's go with computed first. So computed will let know about that will maintain the change detection, and it will compare the previous value and the current value. I have not included that code that is like diving deep into the computed, but just for an understanding, computed will make sure that it will check the signals updates, and based on the signals value updates, it will give a particular value. In this case, it will double the signals count, and we can access the double count. We can see if it's changed to 1, we can see here 2 for double count. So next comes effects. Okay, we have computed, and in computed, whenever the signal changes, we will be able to run the computed every time when the signal changes. But what is the need of effect here? So effect is nothing but there are some scenarios wherein while a signal is changed, we might need some events or some logic that we need to run. That's when effect comes into picture. And mostly API calls and all the asynchronous tasks can be handled via effect. So if you have observed here, it is maintained in constructor because effect needs the injection token to be enabled. If we are writing this effect in some other method or any other change like lifecycle hook of the component, for example, ngOn in it, we have to make sure that we are passing the injection token or injector to the effect so that it will be maintaining the singleton process. So okay, let's understand the pros and cons of signals. Simple APIs, yeah, we can make use of it. Fine-grained reactivity, if you see the code is very simple and reactivity is maintained. Better performance, as I said, change detection itself and it we are skipping the change detection and skipping the zone.js. Not completely though, but yeah. Type safe, we are maintaining the types with writable signals. Yeah, even we can maintain the type signals. I have not included the code here yet, but yeah, type safe, zero boilerplate, not like NgRx. And the cons are, it's a new concept. People have to learn this before starting up, but it's very easy. It'll be easy to learn. And limited ecosystem. There are not much developers out in the market who really make use of signals yet, but yeah, they will have to because Angular is going to shift towards the signals more. Still experimental? I would say no, it's already there. I'm sorry about this. No time travel debugging. Yeah, signal only maintains current value and the previous value. We can't go deep like we can't maintain all the changes that signal has made till that point of time. Probably in the future, Angular team might take care of this as well.
So what
So
is the disadvantage of that? Not having no time travel debugging.
like for example, when we are using NgRx and enterprise applications, there might we might get into some scenarios where we need to understand like what are the values that a particular variable has at some point of time, like uh, so that check and everything will not be possible as of now with signals, and in NgRx there is a possibility of checking that. And also we don't have a specific dev tools or debugging tools for this. We can make use of the simple dev tools that browser provides. Yeah, shall we go to the next?
Yeah.
So advanced single patterns, I just wanted to show like what a signal does. Like for example, uh, right now we are talking about the state management. So what if we are maintaining a state for users, number of users. Uh, so signal based state service, how we can implement is what I'm trying to showcase here. So first we will create a signal. This is the type case that we are talking about. Okay. Uh, here, yeah. So if you have an idea of NgRx, we will be using selectors to get the state. So here we can directly make use of the computed. It's just as simple as that, like users, loading, error, whatever we want as a selector and to showcase in the UI or to make use of in the TypeScript file for logics. So and even updating the state. It is as simple as it is immutable. Okay, we can make use of update. Also we can make use of .set method to set a particular value or update like this with a new value. And yeah, that is all we need for state management. There is no observable, no subscriptions, no destroying the subscription, clearing the subscription. Nothing. It's just like simple push and pull. We'll go to the next
So
concept.
is
Yeah.
are signals like a continue, say, difference between promise and um, subject is that i- they're continuously being observed, right? In Angular.
Yeah.
So here, what is the case with
So
signals?
yeah, as I said, with the computed and with the effect, whenever there is a change in the signal, for suppose there is a change in the signal and users is updated with set users. Okay, so whenever there is a change, then computed it will be running the callback functions to check whether the state has changed. Every time there is a change in the signal, this computed will run again. So that is how the state is maintained here. Did I answer the question?
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, we are not making use of any promise. Yeah, we can make use of promise. With promises also we can maintain the signals, and it is actually we can use both promises and observables, but I'll come to that part later.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, now RxJS for state management. We already know what RxJS is and how powerful tool it is for our applications to make use of like asynchronous operations, use asynchronous operations, and data management, everything. So the entire architecture of RxJS is nothing but works on observables and subjects. Even subjects use observer and observables. So observable stream, there will be a stream of observable that an operator tries to manipulate over that stream, and the subscription where we access the stream to get the data or the stream values, and finally we update it in the component. So how do we use that? So here I have made use of behavioral subject where it needs a initial value similarly to the signals that I have maintained there. We can also make use of a simple subject, and also we can make use of start with operator to initiate with a value. So the same process that we have done there, like maintaining users, how we have done in RxJS is creating a new behavior subject with initial value, then create like public state selectors. We will create state selectors using observables, and this is how we maintain the selector. And this state we can make use of it in the component as a selector and subscribe to it to get the values that are being mapped here as state users. Okay, and similarly for loading and all this stuff. But for update, whereas updating the state, we will be making use of the current state, and we make use of the behavioral subject and try to update immutably the values of the state using next. So whenever there is an update, the observable stream will get the information, and there we can the component, or in the TypeScript we can make use of that subscription till the subscription is alive. Okay, so what are the pros and cons of using RxJS? RxJS has very powerful operators. Yeah, there are a lot of operators. I can name them like map, filter, uh, replay, take until, fork join, concat, a load of operators that we can make use of for different scenarios. And composable streams, we can manipulate the streams, and like we have done here using the map, just sending the users. Likewise, we can do a lot of things with all the operators that we have in RxJS. Great for async operations that we have discussed. Mature ecosystem, there are a lot of developers who are well versed in RxJS, and it will be easy for communication with the developers whenever we face any issue. Time based operations, yeah, like I said, we can make use of debounce time, take until, these things for time-based operations as well. Okay, let's concentrate on the cons. It's very steep learning curve compared to signals, but yeah, complex debugging. Yeah, it will be hard for debugging RxJS unless we make use of specific dev tools for RxJS. Memory leak risk. Yeah, there will be a memory leak risk with subscriptions, so that everyone know while using the RxJS, and we have to be careful with that. Operator overload. There are tons of operators that we can make use of, and people might get confused with all the operators. And finally, subscription management. We know how painful it is if we don't destroy the subscription or clear the subscription while moving from one component to another component. So usually we do it with uh, subscription reference and destroying it in the ng destroy method. Okay, so similarly to the signals, I'm trying to show some advanced RxJS state management, like how we write the uh, state management for with RxJS. So yeah, like I said, here I have used a subject of type action, uh, and yeah, here I have used subject, and if you can see, I have used start with operator to initiate like initial value that every state has, and then using a switch case and scan. For every action that I make, I'll run this scan, and using the switch case, I'll try to manipulate the data immutably, and also write the actions or the dispatches, where usually we use it in the components or some logics. So this is how we will be adding the uh, updating the actions that we need. So based on the action, we will be updating the state, and we can directly make use of the action or the state to get the values into the component or in the TypeScript wherever required. This is quite similar to the Redux reducer, this change that we are making. Uh, Previously in NgRx, we used to use switch case. Yeah. Next, do you have any questions with RxJS, Sai?
No, I think
Okay.
I was just curious when you said the tools are
Mm-hmm.
like you have some developer tools, specific developer tools to debug RxJS. So what kind of tools are you talking about?
There are like RxJS Redux tools, Redux developer tools that we have that we can make use of in debugging this RxJS. Not necessarily because most of the developers are already like have a great experience with RxJS. So most of the developers might not be using it, but yeah, it is a good option to use those kind of tools to debug things.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's very hard to maintain the subscription, because a lot of asynchronous tasks will be happening, and we might not be able to debug everything in the Chrome developer tool or Firefox developer tools, browser developer tools. Yeah. Okay, let's move to NgRx. Okay, NgRx, everyone is well aware of NgRx. It is a specific library built on for Angular to make use of Redux operations or Redux pattern for Angular, like we have Redux and React. It's kind of a similar thing that we can make use of in Angular to maintain complex state management. So the core concepts of NgRx are with components like action, dispatching an action, updating the state with reducer, and maintaining a store. And from the store, a component can make use of selector to get the store values. I've not included effects here. Even in NgRx, we all know that we can make use of effects for complex uh, API calls or asynchronous tasks that we are making use of while maintaining the store or updating the reducer and maintaining the store. So the similar approach here for a basic user's state, creating an action for loading a user using create action method. uh, we have to make use of the NgRx store, which comes from the NgRx module that we will be maintaining in our modules or in the components, if we are talking about component architecture. Then we will be creating actions using create action, sending the properties of what change needs to be done based on the string or the constant that we are making use of. We'll make use of the reducer, creating in the create reducer. We will be making use of the same actions. Based on the actions, we'll update the state immutably. And yeah, I don't think I have included selectors here, which will be in the next slide. So we'll be making use of selectors, creating a selectors at using again NgRx store, create feature selector, and computed selectors, basic selectors, depending on what manipulations that we want or what data that we want to show in the UI. And yeah, effects. We can make use of create effect for complex asynchronous operations, like here we making use of RxJS switch map, and catch error. So similar kind of thing. And we have to make use of the selectors here in the constructor of component, where we can get the data, and this we can be showing in the UI. If you observe, this is the same task that we have done for signals, very less code, RxJS a little more, but with NgRx, if you see, there is a lot of code that is involved and a lot of files that we need to maintain, like NgRx. It is better to uh, maintain different like selectors in a different file, effects in a different file, and making use of them in a component. So it seems like pretty complex, right? But it's not like we can't use NgRx because we have signals or we have RxJS, but depends on what the application is, what are our requirements, how complex the application is, and what is the scalability of the application. So let's move to the next. Okay, first let's check with the performance comparison. Okay, so okay, let's check what is the bundle size. Signals, as you have observed, there is a very little code to make use of for the state management, and approximately 2 KB is like it'll be like the memory would be approximately 2 KB. For RxJS, it would be approximately 15 KB, and NgRx it is approximately 45, even more. That depends on the how big the application is and how much state we are maintaining, how many features of state we are maintaining. Change detection, as we discussed with signals, it is very fine grained and zoneless. And RxJS and NgRx both are Zone.js dependent. So whenever there is a change detection strategy that runs, it will rerun the code again in every component. So memory usage, as we see in the bundle size, similarly the memory usage also will be low for signals, medium for RxJS if we are not maintaining like complex API calls or complex states. Yeah, NgRx obviously we are making use for high enterprise applications, so it will be a high memory usage for NgRx for the store as well as the metadata. Performance, yes, it is excellent to use signals. As we have discussed, we are not using zone.js. We have reduced the change detection strategy, so the performance by using signals is increased a lot. Even if you might have gone through the signals with the recent versions of Angular, like Angular 20, 19, where even the at the rate input, at the rate output decorators are moved to signals, so that the change detection strategy will be skipped further. And as we know, RxJS and NgRx, their performance is good. And developer experience, it is simple and intuitive, just like I have shown the code. It is very simple, like just push and pull. But for RxJS, it will be a bit powerful but complex, because we might be using a lot of operators. Developer needs to know all the usage of other operators and how well we align the operators for a specific task. And NgRx, it is completely structured, like actions, dispatching the action, making change in the reducer, and making change via effect, and then get the data from the selectors. But yeah, structured but verbose. Debugging, it's very basic, that we already discussed. And RxJS, like you said, Sai, we will be using RxJS DevTools for this, and for NgRx we'll be using Redux DevTools. Okay, so performance characteristics, signals, minimal overhead, it's easy. Direct updates, you don't need any streams, observables, or subscriptions. RxJS, we do use observable streams. There will be a lot of operator chains for the manipulation and tasks that we need to do. RxJS, it is immutable updates, but a lot of actions, dispatching, selector, a lot of code. So this is all about the performance comparison. Next, when to use what? This is where the decision of uh, picking a good state management comes into picture. So when to use signals? When you are building very simple apps to medium applications, where you can manage the data or your state within a component or within few components using a service, then you can go ahead with this. And where you want a greater performance and minimal boilerplate, we can go with signals. And like we have discussed, it is new with Angular version 16. Before that, we are not using the signals. So we might be needing to upgrade the application to Angular 16 version. Now, when to use RxJS? When we have heavy asynchronous operations, complex data transformation, real-time data streams, and we also have the resource who is already uh, well versed in RxJS, and they are experts in it. Need more need powerful operators, like we have discussed a bunch of operators, right? And time-based operations. And coming to NgRx, as we discussed, it is for large scale applications and enterprise level applications, where we use like micro front ends, everything, and multiple teams are working together. And like we discussed about the time travel debugging, complex state relationships. So all these requirements, if we have, then we should be going with NgRx. Okay. So finally, the decision: simple apps, yes, signals; complex and asynchronous, RxJS; and enterprise level, NgRx. So let's go for the next comparison. Okay, let's compare the code a bit. Okay, so if you can see, this is a simple code where we are showing count, double of the count that we are maintaining in the state, and a simple increment by clicking on a button. For signals, we have just created a variable with signal and making use of it in the HTML to access the count with signal, and the doubled value by using computed. And when we click on a button, we will uh, call this method increment and update it to +1. So this is as simple as that using signals. But when we are going to RxJS, a lot of things come into picture here. We need to use a subject. Here I have used behavior subject. Either we can make use of observables as well, like this is the count that I'm maintaining for this observable. Doubling the count, we have to write pipe, and inside that we have to do the manipulations using map for incrementing the double. Okay, and when we click on this button, we have to make sure we are running the subscription with next. We can't directly make use of the subjects or observables to directly access it into the HTML. So we also may need to use the async pipe, or else we can just subscribe to that in a method like ngOn in it, and place it in a variable and directly access through a variable here. Too much complex, right? Compared to signals. And again, we have to close the subscription or destroy the subscription once the component once we are moving from this component to other component. But again, come on, let's check with the NgRx approach. You see how long the code is. No wonder this is a simple change that we are making. uh, this is not an enterprise level application or the enterprise level change or state that we want to maintain. Just account, double, and the same increment process. So first we have to get uh, selectors into the component, this, and increment, right, increment and dispatch an action from here. In another file we will be writing a reducer and creating actions. Usually we create actions in a different file, or we can make it in the same reducer file. That depends on how complex the application is. For here we can maintain in the same file, and we have to make sure that we are importing the uh, store module into the ng module, and so on. If there are any effects, we have to maintain effects differently. So for this small task, if you see, the level of coding that we need to do is very smaller or simpler in signals compared to RxJS and compared to NgRx. Let's see how many lines of code we might be needing for this change. When we compare the lines of code, just 12 lines of code with signals, 18 lines of code with RxJS, and 25 plus lines with NgRx. Isn't it bad for such a simple change? Yep. So next we will be seeing the architectural pattern. So like I said, signals architecture is pretty much simple. Making use of a signal whenever there is a change, make use of compute for computed values of the signal, or effects to make use of the events or something, or so on, and access it on the component B. As simple as that. For RxJS, we have to make a subscription, create an observable stream, pipe with different kind of operators, emit the data source, and subscribe to it, and also don't forget to unsubscribe. NgRx, it's a complex process. You see, we need to dispatch an action. If there is an effect, uh, like manipulate the changes in the effect for the store reducer, manipulate or immutably change the state with reducer, and maintain it in the store, and again using selectors access it into the same component or different components. So the patterns, service based signals with computed values for derived state, as simple as that. In RxJS, reactive streams with operator chains for data transformation, a little bit complex. NgRx, unidirectional data flow with centralized state management with all these steps that we need to follow, and a lot of code. But yeah, scalability comparison, small apps like 1 to 5 components, or even 1 to 10 components, it's perfect for signals. RxJS will be an overkill for sure. NgRx, too complex, too much code. Medium apps like 10 to 50 components, great with services. I don't think we might be using RxJS, but yeah, if there are a lot of asynchronous operations, then yeah, RxJS will be a good choice. NgRx, consider if needed, but I don't think so it is needed for a medium app as well. For large components, large apps with 100 plus components, we may need to structure this for the signals. And RxJS also, if we have complex subscriptions, yeah, but we can make use of NgRx and RxJS together and make use of NgRx. Like it will be good for the state management for large applications. Enterprise level, as I already discussed before, NgRx is the only perfect fit, but not yet. I'll come to that point at the last. We'll go to them. So in like real world scenarios, examples like for a simple e-commerce shopping cart, Signal is the best. Like real-time dashboard where we need to get data or do a lot of asynchronous operations using WebSocket subject or something like that with a different tons of operators that we make use of RxJS. RxJS would be good. And enterprise user management like entity adapters, we can make use of NgRx. Okay, debugging and developer tools. We already discussed about these things. Signals are easy to debug. RxJS a little complex, and NgRx it is complex, but it will be easy when we use Redux DevTools. So the same things that we already discussed: time travel, debugging strategies, state inspector, action tracking, whatnot. Best practices and anti-patterns. Whenever we are using signals, do's use computed for derived state. Obviously, keep signals simple and focused. Use effects for side effects only, or else it might end up with infinite loops if we don't if we use to manipulate the signals within the effects. And prefer read-only signals for public APIs. Use services for shared signals for different components. Don't mutate the signals values directly. As I said, don't create signals in computed, and also don't create signals in effects. Don't use signals for async operations. You can make use of async operations in the effect and then compute your signals. That will be good. Don't create circular dependencies like we discussed about the infinite loops. And RxJS, always unsubscribe to prevent leaks. I've observed this a lot in my career that people used to forget unsubscribing, and it will be a hell to debug these things. Use async pipes when possible. Use share reply for shared data. Handle errors with catch error. Take until for cleanup. We can also use like reference of the observed subscription and destroy it in the ng destroy, depending on how we want to use. Don't forget to unsubscribe. Don't nest subscriptions. Don't ignore error handling. Don't use subject for everything. That will be very hard to maintain. NgRx best practices. Do use feature modules for organization. Maintaining different states for different features is very important for enterprise level applications. Keep reducers simple, pure and simple. Use entity adapters for collection, name actions, use selectors for computed values. Don't mutate the state. This is true for all the state managements. Don't put everything in store. Don't create generic actions. Don't skip effects for side effects. Okay. And this is our final slide where we can conclude and we can recommend what to use when. For simplicity, signals, yes. Performance, signals, obviously. Async operations, we can make use of signals and RxJS, but RxJS would be a right fit. Complex states, obviously, NgRx, debugging and NgRx, learning curve, signals are simplest. Ecosystem, we have a lot of RxJS ecosystem. So what do you think? Who is the winner, Sai?
Yeah, it depends on the situation, right?
Yeah. So again, but I would say signals are the winner. Ask why. Okay. So even there's a good news actually. Even NgRx is trying to move their concepts into signals because Angular is going ahead with just signals and or more of signals, I can say. So even NgRx is trying to adopt the signals for state management. How good is that?
That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. So finally, for if you want to start simple, go with signals for new projects. If it's a hybrid approach, combine signals and RxJS. Yeah, there is a we can even make use of signals and RxJS together. So we can convert the signals into observables. We can convert observables to signals too. That is something new that Angular has introduced recently, and scale gradually. Then eventually you can make use of the state management with NgRx. If uh, if your application goes very big, go with NgRx store, or if you are making use of recent Angular versions, I would say go for NgRx signal store. Yep. So finally, the best state management solution is the one that fits your team expertise and project requirements. That's all for today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sai, for this opportunity.
Thank you. Do more of this.
Thank you.